Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Here's another call with one of our March Madness winners. Mark is going to join us in a minute for asking a few questions for a really helpful Q&A. And here he is actually, and he played a beautiful rendition of Summertime, which was voted on the Jazz Guitar Fellowship. So let's get started with the Q&A. Welcome to Jazz Guitar Lessons, where we help guitarists learn jazz faster, express themselves more fluently, and have fun along the way. My name is Mark, and if you're looking to learn jazz, form better practice habits, and especially if you enjoy a French accent, make sure to subscribe. Okay, so I know you have the 3 questions. Even if we depart from that, it's totally okay. I'll let you take the ball and run away with it.
Okay. So Mark, first question for you. As a kid, I actually did learn to play music. I was about 9 years old, probably, with some classical guitar. And then I started to get into jazz. I listened to jazz all the time at home. From that point forward, for some reason, I started to play by ear. So I dropped the habit of reading music. And now I'm finding that that might be an inhibitor to my progress. So I guess the question is, do I dig back into reading music and trying to figure that out? Or can I actually progress in your program working a lot with my ears and see if I can pick up the rest as I go?
Great question. It's like 2 separate questions in a way, because the reading side of things can be thought of in the classical world like reading, sight reading, like you see a thing for the first time and you perform it as it's written. This is not required for jazz. And I think that a lot of jazz players become fine approximators, like myself. Or some like legendary players like West never read. They were like, I don't want to read music, but they knew, like, West knew what he was doing. So I became a reader on guitar of, say, a lead sheet, more so as a cue card. So it's not like I'm sight reading it. I'm reading it, and then I can refer to it. So I know which pitches are high or low. So there's 2 components to your question. So there's 2 answers. One is which part is like preventing you from making progress. If it is reading charts like this and just things from the real book, you can develop a level of proficiency in reading that's high enough to tackle that. But that's not taking you to Carnegie Hall to be like first oboe in a symphony or whatever, right? And then the other side would be like if you wanted to do that because you become a pit musician or you're drawn upon to play things that are written in front of you, then I'd say maybe developing a jazz vocabulary is not like your current priority right now. Like you would want to focus on that, right? So the short answer is like yes and no, but you can do very, say, guitar-centric studies, such as the William Levitt. There's a Berklee Modern Method. There's a whole thing if you want to start from scratch.
Okay.
But you could also do lesser things, which I'll grab the book off my shelves now for the reference on camera. One, I think it's called Melodic Rhythms. So it's exposing very simple melodic motifs in a single position, but they will tackle a different rhythmic figure every time. So we get used to seeing these subdivisions and executing them accurately. Is this reading? No, because beyond the first or second pass of reading it, you're not reading it anymore. You're remembering what you read, if that makes sense. So maybe melodic rhythms, and I'll grab the books just for...
Perfect, okay.
Two books. So this one, Melodic Rhythms, it's on Berklee Press. That's William Levitt. And that's what I mentioned with the rhythmic figures. Like they will coach you on a rhythmic figure on a single note. So, ta, tika, tika, rest, ta, tika. You repeat that a few times. And then after you do the study is simply reusing these motifs you found out about. The other one that's really popular, but not with guitarists, is Rhythms Complete by Bugs Bauer, I think.
Okay.
Charles Collin and Bugs Bauer. And this is the same principle, but it's much shorter. So you get a key rhythm here, and then you get 3 8-bar phrases using that motif. This is more like for band instruments, say clarinet, trombones, and trumpet, like in high school, say.
Right, yeah.
But that could give you, if you wanted, it would give you enough reading to maybe unblock your constraint in your playing.
Mm-hmm.
And if all else fails, you can just like look at a bunch of lead sheets and decipher them, and that's going to be plenty, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
No, it does make sense. That's great, Mark. Excellent.
Okay.
You mentioned playing in positions in reference there too, and I remember I was watching a Kenny Burrell video last night, and such lovely changes that he was playing, but his hand wasn't moving on the fretboard. And I know if it was me, I'd be jumping down here and back up here and over here, and my head would be doing gymnastics. So I think I've got to force myself to be a little bit lazy with my left hand, which wasn't one of my questions, but it just came to me last night. That's very economical compared to the way I play the guitar.
It is, and it is not. So that's a whole. I think it's like a mirage. You know, you get like, oh, I'll get water and I see the palm trees. But yes, at the same time, I made a video about this like 15 years ago, where there are patterns. Say within a scale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Da 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 da. If I did force myself to do that in positions, that's the opposite of economical, because I may get on a finger there's a hard transition between two strings that I could spare myself that by just moving up. So it's not economical geographically, but it's economical in phrasing. And
right.
One of the best ways to go about this is to grab Charlie Parker tunes and attempt to stay in a position and play them. It's basically impossible. It's like you're not going to do it. It's like, why not just go for the shift that's phrased better? So there's validity to doing the full boxed in thing. Yes. There's the other one jumping around, and I personally have segmented both in my playing, going full position, caged, and or Berkeley System 7 positions, and then one string at a time. I made videos about this, like, full
yes, I've seen one. Yeah.
And then the blend of the two, which is what's optimal for phrasing. But then that's not very, say, human mind friendly, because it's not constrained, it's not segmented. It's like, well, anything and everything. Right. So I think there's value in all of the approaches, just depending on what your constraint is for that period in your playing.
For sure. Okay, well, that's kind of a great segue into my next question that I had for you, which is, I wish I'd learned to play piano in my earlier days, because I would have learned theory. I found the guitar to be very mathematical almost. It's patterns on the fretboard, and the piano gives me a different context. So I feel I've got a good basket of chord inversions that I could comp. I can do some soloing. But as soon as someone starts mentioning relative minor scales and substitutions, my head is closed off. So the question is there a way that I can dig into theory that would be, I'd have to study, but it would be somewhat enjoyable, but also wouldn't distract from the 7-step process that you've got? Can I build on the theory while I'm doing the 7-step process, basically?
How do you phrase it? Is there a way I can learn theory so it's not like too not pleasant?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if I was 18, I'd be willing to take on the unpleasantness, but 61, maybe not.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, that's good, but I think it's two separate questions. And I want to answer the piano question first, because my heart is in it right now. I rigged myself. I got my little gear. I got a Kawai, like it's an electric piano. It's got a stand. Everything's in the house. I say it's for my son, but it's for me, really. And it's not going to teach me theory to do what I'm about to propose. But if you have a keyboard lying around and you want to comp on standards, you can do that. And I picked it up from downstairs just to show you on this call, because I saw your questions in the email. It's called Keyboard for the Pianist and Non-Pianist by Jerry Coker. And this was designed as a 2-semester class in, I think it's Miami University or something, because keyboard literacy is important to anyone doing serious studies in music, all instruments, myself included. I had to go through it in classical. I had to go through it in the jazz world. If you did half of that book, you could comp any standard with 4 fingers. So these two and these two. That's a 2. That's your 5, and that's back your 1. It's like root 7th, 3rd, 5th, and a voice lead. So you do that in a key, you do the next key, and then they're like, okay, here's Blue Bossa and the book. Chunk, 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 chunk. And it's magical. You can learn it in a month. Plus, I know you're an achiever, so you're gonna pick it up so fast. It's not going to teach you any theory. That's why I say your question is. So even my people I know that studied classical piano, can't talk to them about tritone subs and Neapolitan 6 and go to the relative mind. Even these guys that play really high level like Mozart and whatever, they don't know. They're reading dots on the page, which is a thing. You want to be a technician to do that's great. But highly recommended. unrelated to your question, however. Hey guys, real quick, if you're enjoying this episode so far and you're interested in taking your jazz guitar playing to the next level, please reach out to us. We've helped thousands of guitarists improvise on standards at a level they didn't even think was possible. So link in description or visit jazzguitarlessons.net to start today. Okay, back to the episode. If you want to do theory, I will recommend that you just take a dedicated class in basics, and if it's like too easy, you can just run through it faster. But I would say start from the ground up and just set yourself a limit so not to get completely swallowed in it, because you could spend 3 hours a day on it. Yeah. And even if you do woodworking or golf, like anything that you'll spend 3 hours on it will detract from my 7-step process. Right? It's just like anything else will not be conducive to doing that. But outside the call between you and I have a resource or two that I can recommend that may be behind a paywall, either of mine or another one, which I'll. But my trifecta is this, and it's hard. These things are hard to come by. A class that would combine the knowledge of whatever it is you're working on, C major equals A minor, relative minor, and the fretboard awareness of it, and the hearing aspect of it. So you could completely know you're going from C to A minor. So a trifecta of these three things is something you should be looking for. It used to be in books and be very dry, conservatory based, just do all the clefs, and just, like, you can do that. I'm not affiliated, but Duolingo?
Yeah.
They've started. They have math classes now for kids and stuff. I saw the piano/music course. It is pretty good.
Oh, interesting.
Very interactive. You can do 5 minutes while you're waiting for the coffee to brew or something. So that could be worth giving a shot. But the other resources, I'll be in touch or ask me, because...
Super.
Okay. Good question. So within my coaching, I do it as the step after, which is, all right, here are the 5 to 7 progressions we tackled, Stella, all the things, whatever, and I break them down. I tear them apart on paper. I reconstruct them. So my prescription to you would be like, watch the videos I made and watch them like 3 times within a month, and then repeat, and eventually you'll click on most of these things.
Super. I must admit, I'm quite lazy when we get a challenge in the fellowship, because I go and look around on the internet for somebody else's harmonic analysis just to get an idea of what that's like. So that may be cheating a little bit, but it does actually distill into my head. Ultimately, I start to figure a few things out.
That's good. And through tackling more standards, the recognition or the awareness that this thing came by and, I already knew this. Like even if it's C, B, A minor. I have C major, A minor. But if you're in F, you go F, E, D minor. That relationship is the same relationship relatively.
Right.
That can only be done through use and exposure, like a lot of exposure. It's like learning a language. Lots of exposure to common vocabulary.
Good.
Awesome.
Good. That's brilliant, Mark. Okay, so very occasionally I get asked to play in a local restaurant. And the first time I bombed. I mean, I actually thought I was going to play with the owner who had a saxophone. I thought we were going to jam. And at lunchtime, I thought, maybe he means I'm playing on my own. And I've never done that. So I downloaded a few backing tracks, and I think I got a $10 tip. So that was it. But I had a lot of fun. So
you're a professional now. You got paid to play music.
Exactly. The weird thing is, they asked me to come back. And so I'm thinking, and thank you so much for designing the program where you learn jazz standards, because I've never done that. I've got some favorite tunes that I've played in the past, but I've never committed to learning jazz standards. So now I know several jazz standards. The question is, with I wouldn't say regimented, with the guide that you have for practicing, where do I fit in rehearsing a set? Is that completely separate from learning and practicing?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say it's not distinct. The goal now, when I bring the new program I call Catalyst, by the way, I started to promote this. I changed the name a little bit. And we just aim to complete the 5 steps, the first 5 steps of the 7 steps over 5 tunes, which brings us to synthesis, the jam session, which is essentially, I can hold my own on a repertoire. I can do the comping I can do the head, the comping, the improv, and the comping again, wrap it up. So that's what you would perform in a restaurant. If you decide not to solo on a song, not to improvise, cool. If you decide not to do a round of comping, also cool, but all the pieces are there. I don't believe it is distinct from my approach in that beyond the knowledge of 5 to 10 tunes, the problem of retention arises, which is a problem you don't have when you don't know any tunes, when you don't know any standards. But now you start to forget them faster than you learn them. So retention should be part of your plan. And I use a tool called the 4CE, 4 chorus exercise, just to go through step 5, do a full thing as a measuring stick. And my prescription for current coaching students is after you got your 5 tune, once you get to the 6th one, your previous 5, you should perform them 3 times a week at the very least. And at the very least, do a 4CE on each. Even if you don't stop to correct the mistakes, whatever, the 4CE is the measuring stick. Like, can I do this or not? And then I play through it. I'm like, ooh, shoot, forgot the bridge. There's this chord introduction. Right? And I can pinpoint and then go, okay, now I know what I got to work on. That work is crucial. And there's no means or way to maintain a large repertoire if it's not used. It will just not, it will just not be maintained just by sheer. It's not like bicycle. People say, it's not. It's got to be played and played and played and played again. Yeah.
You bet. Perfect, Mark. That was brilliant. Really super helpful, and thank you for offering the Jazz Guitar Fellowship for free to everybody. I think it's genius, and the competition was great. I was just a bit surprised to even have the chance to come close to the sharp end. It was really good.
That's great. I think everyone did super well, but also you got a lot of votes because I think you played well, and Elna also, it was fantastic. Ed, you saw Ed's video? It's like classically based, good sound, and like the counterpoint is like this. This is what it's for.
Yeah. Ed is so consistent too, I find.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And thank you. Thanks for being a part of it. And once you leave the call, I'll make like, hey, thanks to Mark for being... so I'll make a little like outro sort of thing.
You betcha. Yeah.
Did you have anything off the record you wanted to talk about?
No, I don't. Well, I don't think so. I think I've got to go actually back to basics a little bit. Years ago, I did a quick lesson with Stu Goldberg, who used to play keyboard for John McLaughlin. And I didn't realize he lived in the next town. So I called him and said, hey, can you do a quick lesson? And I remember him asking me, show me where the B flats are on your fretboard. Well, the top string, I know what that is. And the A string, I know where it is. And then I'm starting to scratch my head a little bit. So it's some of those fundamental knowledges. I know it in terms of modes, but if you ask me to put the major together in a different inversion, I couldn't just look at the keyboard and go, there's that bit, there's that note, there's that note. Ooh, that sounds cool. So I think I've just got to go back to some very basic stuff to help expand from where I am.
Yeah, I think the whole coaching, what we talked about in January, would be really good to be taken by the hand. And just while we're on very technical topics, have you ever built scales with tetrachords?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, maybe that's going to be stuff to ponder while you can't fall asleep at night or something like that.
Totally.
So a tetrachord is 4 notes. Yep. Tetra, the chord has no H, it's chord, tetrachords, meaning 4 notes. It's a Greek term, I guess.
Okay.
Greek or Latin?
Yep.
Greek. And if I look at C, D, E, F, that's the first tetrachord. It's called a major tetrachord because what we have is a whole step between C and D, a whole step between D and E, and a half step. So it's whole half.
Uh-huh.
You're with me, right?
Yep.
So if I build a tetrachord there, and then I build a tetrachord on the 5th of that, so I start on G, and I build a major tetrachord again, then I get the major scale.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you can select any other starting note, but I recommend you start with the ones that are close. So you can start on a C and do that. You can start on a G now. So if you do G, A, B, C, you get a major tetrachord, right?
Yeah.
But then you start on the 5th, so you go D. If you go D, E, F, G, you'll wind up with your half step not in the right place. So you need an F sharp to get that. You still with me?
Yep.
Okay, so now the key signature to G major is handed to us on a silver platter going, you need to raise that F to an F sharp. And if you keep consecutively ascending a fifth like this, you'll have to add a sharp every time, but the previous sharps carry over because of the way the tetrachords are built. If you did it in the opposite direction, down a fifth, so if you went C major is all, all white notes, but then if you did F major, right, you go down a fifth, then you would need a flat somewhere in there. I'll just tell you, surprise, it's a B flat. So you start with your major tetrachord. So you can have two major tetrachords side by side and build all the major scales. As you get acquainted with the order of appearance of these sharps and flats, these things, then it's the cycle fourths, like the cycle, their relative major and minor, like everything is already in there, including chord progressions. But it takes a deep, hard look at it for months until it's like, I see this. Like you gotta become a bit schizophrenic about it. It's all there. First principles, tetrachords.
Yeah, it's definitely an uphill slog, and then you plateau for a while once you've got there. And you're looking for the next slog. So I've got to get to that plateau, but I'm getting there. There's definitely been an improvement in my playing since I started, so I'm happy.
Very good. Excellent.
Cool.
Good. And then the resource I mentioned, when you get there, or if you have extra time, just shoot me a DM or a chat. I built these courses I want to bring back and put them in the accelerator. And they're called Harmony 101, 2, and 3. And it's with me. So it's that trifecta I mentioned.
Yeah.
I made these classes. I used to sell them. I don't sell them anymore. I sell coaching because. But I can give you access, and you may find like everything in your 3 questions that was like the underlying.
All the answers are there.
Reading, hearing it, knowing the theory of it, playing the fretboard, like it's all, that's the answer.
Fantastic, Mark.
Great.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Go.